Hello and welcome back to the Final Whistle after a long break off. Although it has been a while, we are back and ready to preview this year's March Madness. I'm your host, Drew Ziegler, and I'm here with James Gougosis. We'll be going over the borderline teams who got a bid and those who did not, as well as our picks who we think are high seeds that could be possible early exits, and those teams that could go on those Cinderella runs that always happen in March. So first, this year there were a lot of tournament bid stealers, teams that won their conference in the tournament but were very unlikely to even make it if they didn't win the tournament. Teams like the NC State, who won the ACC in 5 days and 5 games, and they won them all. Duquesne from the A10, Oregon from the Pac-12, and UAB from the USA Conference. So what do you have to say about those teams?
I think the committee was put into a tough position because, obviously the teams in the bubble got shifted up 4 or 5 spots. But those teams made great runs, and we don't really see that often. And to get 4 of them in 1 year, it's just incredible. But I still don't understand how teams like Virginia got in. I think Colorado State and Boise State, they had to get into a first 4 because of the 4 teams that won. So even though it doesn't seem like they should have been in those situations, I think those teams are better than a 10 seed in the first 4. The committee was put into, they didn't have a choice. So yeah, Virginia definitely didn't deserve to get in. I think Seton Hall, St. John's, Oklahoma, all those teams deserve to get in over them. But yeah, I think the committee was just in a lose-lose situation.
Yeah, you mentioned St. John's, Seton Hall. There are 3 Big East teams only in the whole tournament, but 3 very good teams, being all top 3 seeds at least. But a team like Pitt stole a bid from NC State in the ACC, which I think they could have gotten if NC State didn't go on that magical run. And Indiana State, in a team that's top 30 probably in the net rankings, didn't get in because they did not win their conference, and they're obviously not in a very strong conference. And the chairman of the committee said it was one of the toughest years, if not the toughest year. It's always tough, but with those conference winners, it makes it that much tougher. And now there's a lot of teams, again, as always, high seeds who people might think are fraudulent and are not going to make that big run. Two 1 seeds like Purdue and Houston, question marks next to them, and a 2 seed like Marquette dealing with injuries to their best player, Tyler Kolek.
Yeah, I don't think Marquette's I think Marquette's going to be the highest seeded team that's going to fall off the first. I think Tyler Kolek being injured is a big deal. They haven't had him since mid-February, and I don't think he's going to be 100%. And they're playing a really good Western Kentucky team, even in the first round, so they got to make sure they get past the 15 seed. But I don't see them winning more than 1 game. I don't think they get it past the first weekend because it's very tough to play games without your best player, even if he's not at 100%. It's not the same when he is 100%. So in March, you got to have good depth if your star player is out or not 100%. So I think Marquette's definitely a team that's going to lose first.
Yeah, Houston, there seemed to always be a 1 seed, at least due to recency bias. And there is an asterisk next to them usually, but I feel like this year they are a very good team and they can make a deep run. And a team like Purdue going 7-0 against teams in the top 25, but also them recently, they've been out. Obviously last year lost to a 16 seed, and Zach Edey, we'll see what he can do.
Yeah, Purdue, they have a relatively easy path to the Elite 8, but the pressure is going to be there. So I think that even though they have an easy path, the games are going to be close. They're definitely going to feel the pressure, especially Edey, one of the best players in the country. I think he's going to really have to carry this Purdue team like he has all year.
Yeah, now that we went over teams that we think are possibly bound for early exits, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we'll go to a more positive note with the teams that could be upsets and go on big runs. And then we'll give you our final. Now, we said Cinderella runs. There's always so many teams that could go on those runs, lower seeds. You think of teams like New Mexico as an 11 seed, Nebraska, NC State, McNeese as a 12 seed. Everyone's very high on them. Who are some of your picks to go on Cinderella runs this year?
I think the first team I have is Nebraska, the 8 seed, and they can get hot really quick. And when they're hot, they're a phenomenal team. So, they in their first round game they play Texas A&M, second round game they play Houston. If they get hot, I think they could beat both of those teams. And then my other team that I think is under the radar is Nevada, 10 seed, first game against Dayton. I think they're a very solid team, and if you beat Dayton, then they play Arizona, and Arizona's never good in March. So I think there are teams in the weaker part of the bracket that can in my bracket, I have them in the Elite Eight. I think they really have a chance to make it to the Elite Eight. I think that's a big possibility, and I don't think a lot of people are really talking about them. I think more people are talking about New Mexico in that region than Nevada.
Yeah, a lot of teams from the West, like in that Mountain West Conference, did not get respected in this tournament. They got in, but not with great seeds. And a team that's not in that conference and maybe a bit of a higher seed, a 6th seed, Texas Tech, I think they could go on a big run. They've got great guard play, usually wins these tournaments, I'd say, based on overall over the years. And I think they're going to be Kentucky in that second round, assuming Kentucky wins. And a game like McNeese against Gonzaga seems to be a great first-round game. Who do you have in that?
I have McNeese in my bracket. I don't think Gonzaga deserves a 5 seed. They really was struggling. Then they picked it up at the end of the year, but I still don't think they deserve to be that 5 seed. And I think McNeese, great team, and I think they could really catch Gonzaga off guard. And I think in the round of 32, they can possibly, whether they were Stanford or Kansas, with Kansas so many injuries and not enough depth, I think McNeese can possibly make it to the Sweet 16 as well.
And now to our final 4 predictions. For me, I got UConn and UNC, 2 1 seeds. And on the other side, I've got Marquette and Creighton, 2 Big East teams. I think Creighton's a very good team, very well-rounded offensive and defensive. And although they didn't have a great showing in the Big East tournament, I think they're going to go on a run in March Madness and match up with their Big East foe in Marquette. And I think Creighton's going to take them down. And then on the other side, UConn and UNC, I think the 2 best teams in the whole tournament. They matched up early in the year. UConn came away with the win, but I think that's going to change, and I think UNC is going to win, match up with Creighton in the final, and I think UNC is going to take it this year.
Yeah, in my bracket, I have UConn and UNC like you had, and then and on the other side, I have Kentucky and Tennessee. I think UNC and UConn, like you said, are the 2 best teams in the country, and I also have UNC going to the national championship game. I think they're going to avenge they're not going to avenge. They're going to come back from their loss to NC State. I think with their guards and R.J. Davis, I think they have a really solid team. And Kentucky and Tennessee, I think those are 2 very good teams, 2 high-power offenses. We saw them early in the year. Tennessee, or most recently Tennessee, beat them. Both 2 high-scoring teams, and I think Tennessee is going to beat Kentucky. In the national championship game, I also have UNC. I think they're going to win it first time since beating Gonzaga. And I think this team is just really well-rounded. They swept Duke this year, which that you could say that's their national championship. But I think North Carolina, when it means the most, I think they're going to come up big.
Yeah, they have arguably the best player in the country in R.J. Davis. And you on the right side have SEC teams matching up. I've got the Big East. So only time will tell. And thanks for watching, and we will see you next week to talk about the first 2 rounds of March Madness play.